All right. How are you? Let's talk a little bit about CogCon, commonly known as continuity of government, and why this matters to you, why you should care. All right. We'll post the links for everybody so you can actually reference this. So, whether you knew it or not, some interesting things occurred over the last year and prior to our elections back in November. A lot of people believe the resident in the White House is our actual POTUS, and he's not. They believe the doctor that perpetrated the deception on us at the beginning gave good advice about those jabs, and we see what's happening. They believe there was no deception in our state and federal events, yet we've got ample proof that's showing otherwise. And they believe these things being played out on mainstream media are actually happening, when we're finding many are green screen acting events. Great example is the Kyle Rittenhouse case that was televised. If you look in some of the court proceedings, behind the rail back towards the entrance door, you see people's feet disappear behind an object, which shows that it's a green screen production. With all these things going on and craziness on all levels, you have to ask, what's really happening and why are they doing green screen acting events instead of the real thing? So let's talk a little bit about continuity of government, what this is, CogCon. Continuity of government establishes readiness from the executive branch, the president alone. So the president determines and issues the CogCon level. If you go back several years, CogCon was elevated from 4 to 3, and in January 8th, we find out that it went from 3 to 2. So these are things that people prepare for. So it was first instantiated a couple of years ago when our 45 took office, and people continue in their normal locations, but we start spooling up alternate facilities and conducting readiness exercises. When we look at what happened right before the January event, we were bumped to level 3. And that's where they started spooling up and heating up those sites for active use. And that included making sure all IT systems were ready and ensuring that alternate facilities are prepared to receive the staff. And then ultimately, January 8th occurred, and we had level 2. A number of buildings were reported, including the FBI and many others, boarded up in Washington, D.C. And that's because more than half of their staff that was deployed for emergency relocation moved to the other locations. This enabled them to do so under the cover and protection of preparing for issues with the inauguration. And this is why all of those buildings were boarded up. Literally hours before, quote unquote, handing over or transitioning, we moved to level 1. Everybody moved to alternate locations and things continued. We now have what's known as the Southeast White House, and that is Mar-a-Lago, and that is exactly what's going on right now. You can drill into this with a lot of the detail that was provided for me in my training with the government. And this is exactly what we're facing right here. So you can download this, just right click and save the image and take it for your own. So keep in mind, continuity of government happens in a time of disaster or foreign usurping of our leadership. CogCon was initially activated, as I mentioned, before January 6th, and on January 8th was elevated to the next height, and then literally on Inauguration Day it was bumped to level 1. What does this all mean? It shows we had a plan. Indeed, it is in play, keeping things in the hands of the adults in the room rather than the leftist, petulant children, whether it's BLM, Antifa, any of the communist politicians that are in office. It took all of their play toys out of their control, and the adults in the room are still in control, and they're keeping them from doing extreme harm. Now, keep in mind, they're allowed to continue their actions as part of this plan so that they can educate and wake up those that have been ignoring politics for decades. Remember the old phrase, it's a political phrase, you may not care about politicians, but they care about you and your wallet. So it's important to realize you're now seeing what happens when those same leftist politicians play Camp Run Amok, unsupervised as part of a script, but we now have supervision in place that keeps them from going all out permanently. I know that's harsh, but it's at least being controlled. There will be casualties. We refer to that as collateral damage, just like in any war. This is unfortunate, but it has to be this way. Otherwise, people will never understand what they were part of, unaware or not. I'm going to encourage you. Take your time, study, dig, do your research. Don't just take our word for it, but investigate. When the big reveal comes, and it is coming shortly, and the reinstatement of 45 occurs, remember, he never left. Then we'll indeed be in a better place. Hope you have a peaceful Thanksgiving. Shalom, and we will talk to you soon.